This is history we carry, not history we hide. Like share, connect. Knowledge is the key. Now listen close. This story built the sea. How one English name spread island-wide, from Canefield whispers to Riverside. Beckford, common pan Jamaican tongue, but that
Greeting subscriber. If you are not yet a subscriber, please become one. It is all about learning and sharing and connecting. Please like and also share the content. So let's go into our video and let's talk about a wild paradox. What if one of the most celebrated champions of liberty in British history was also one of its most ruthless slave owners? It sounds impossible, but it's true. Today we're diving into the story of the Beckford Dynasty. This family basically wrote the playbook on how to turn human suffering into incredible wealth and political power. Their story, while it's really the story of how the British Empire was built, and it holds some pretty dark secrets. So let's start with a puzzle. A simple question with a deeply complicated answer. How on earth did a single English family name become one of the most common surnames on a Caribbean island? The answer to that question unpacks the entire story of a dynasty and the deep, lasting scars of the system they helped create. And this, right here, this is the core contradiction. In Jamaica, the name Beckford is a direct mark of ownership. It was a name forced on enslaved people, literally stripping them of their own identities. But then you go to London and you find that same name carved into the base of a statue celebrating a man hailed as a hero of liberty. How can both of those things possibly be true? To figure that out, we've got to go back, way back to the 17th century, to a Jamaica that was basically a violent, lawless frontier. This is where the family patriarch, a guy named Peter Beckford, first landed and saw a golden opportunity to build an empire from the ground up. Peter Beckford's rise was, well, it was meteoric. He shows up in Jamaica right after the English took it from Spain. He starts out just capturing and selling wild horses, but he quickly figures out where the real money is: land and sugar. The guy was a master at playing the political game, grabbing huge chunks of land and climbing the colonial ladder until boom, he's the most powerful man on the entire island. And here is the real cost of that ambition. By the time he died, Peter Beckford's entire fortune was built on the backs of 1,200 enslaved African people. You have to understand, this wasn't just a business. It was a brutal, massive enterprise of human bondage. The profits from that enterprise, they were just astronomical. In today's money, his fortune would be worth over £200 million. To give you some perspective, that's more than the entire annual budget for the Royal Navy at the time. This staggering amount of wealth becomes the seed money for the family's next big move. So let's move on to the next generation, because this is where the story shifts from that colonial frontier right to the very heart of the Empire, London. The family fortune now passes to Peter's son, William Beckford, a man who would use Jamaican sugar money to try and conquer the British political world. Now, what's so fascinating here is how William Beckford didn't just spend his money, he weaponized it in Parliament. He becomes the head of the West India Interest, which was basically a super powerful lobbying group for slave owners in the City of London. He gets himself elected Lord Mayor twice to make sure the city's powerful merchants were all on his side. He was a master of the system, using his insane wealth to bend the British state to his will. And yet, back in London, this was his public image. People saw him as a radical, a hero who famously stood up to King George III himself to defend the city's freedoms. He was celebrated, lionized as this great champion of liberty. But then you learn this, and the hypocrisy is just, it's breathtaking. He reportedly named two of the human beings he owned Wilkes after his political ally and liberty. It's such a chilling, dehumanizing act. It just lays it all bare for him. Freedom was for Londoners. Africans were property, period. And well, you can't build a system on that kind of brutality and not expect it to explode. In 1760 it did. One of the largest slave rebellions in the British Empire, known as Tacky War, erupted on one of William Beckford's own plantations. The very foundation of his wealth was fighting back. The rebellion was crushed with horrific violence, but watch what Beckford does next. This is the move of a political genius. He uses his power in London to demand that 2,000 permanent British soldiers be stationed in Jamaica. Think about that. He socialized the cost. He made the British state and its taxpayers foot the bill for the military required to secure his private slave-based business. All right, fast forward to the 19th century. This is where the family's raw, violent fortune gets a very sophisticated makeover. This is the part of the story where blood money gets laundered into high art, magnificent architecture, and what we now call national heritage. So now we meet Generation 3. William Thomas Beckford, they called him England's wealthiest son. He inherited a fortune that was maintained by about 3,000 enslaved people back in Jamaica. People he never saw on plantations, he never set foot on. He was the ultimate absentee landlord living this life of just unimaginable luxury. So you'd think when Britain finally abolishes slavery in 1833, there might be some justice, right? Nope, not even close. The government took out a gigantic loan, but it wasn't to compensate the people who had been enslaved for centuries. It was to pay off the enslavers for the loss of their property. The victims of the crime got absolutely nothing. You can bet William Tyrus Beckford cashed in his personal cut of the compensation was the equivalent of over £1.3 million today. This was basically a massive state-sponsored bailout for the slave-owning class, and British taxpayers will be paying it off for generations. And where did that money go? It was plowed into these incredible country estates like the famous Font Hill Abbey and used to build one of the finest art collections in Europe. The profits from slavery were literally transformed into cultural treasures, many of which are now hanging in Britain's national museums. You know, there's actually a modern term for the system that Beckford has perfected: racial capitalism. It's an economic model that is totally dependent on creating and enforcing racial hierarchies. You have to treat an entire group of people as less than human, as property, in order to extract those massive profits. The Beckford didn't just own people, they built an entire economic and political world on that foundation. So why does any of this matter today? Let's bring it all back to the present, because this isn't just dusty old history. The actions of the Beckford Dynasty have a direct, tangible legacy that continues to shape our world right now. Remember that statue of Alderman Beckford, the so-called champion of liberty? It is still standing in London's Guildhall, but today it's not just some old monument, it's a flashpoint, a center of a really heated debate about how Britain should deal with its deep connection to slavery. And get this is a truly shocking detail. Researchers found an early design for that very statue, and it shows Beckford with his foot resting on the back of a chained African man. The final version hid where the money came from, but the original idea made it brutally, graphically clear. So at the end of the day, the crucial point is this: legacy is all around us. It's in the surnames carried by thousands of Jamaican families. It's in the statues that still stand in our public squares. It's in the very art that hangs in our national galleries. And it is right at the heart of these urgent, ongoing debates about what historical justice and reparations really mean, both in Britain and in Jamaica. And that leaves us with one last really difficult question. The story of the Beckford is one of massive, lopsided extraction, where the wealth, the power, and the status of one family were built on the stolen lives of thousands. When the historical ledger is that unbalanced, what does true repayment even begin to look like? Thanks for watching. Until next time.
Not from love, not from kin, not from choice, but from chains and silent stolen voice. Name stripped clean, identity gone. Beckford stamped where Africa once shone.
Champion of liberty, that's what them say. But freedom had a color, locked away. Gold in London, blood in the cane. Same family profit, different pain. History taught, but truth exposed. Liberty up top, plantation below.
17th century Jamaica wild, sword sugar land pile high. Peter Beckford step on stolen ground. See fortune grew where suffering abound. From Wild Horse Street to Sugar King, land grab power everything. Governor friend, colonial boss, 1,200 Africans paid the cost. 200 million in today's tongue, more than warships Britain run. Empire rise from brutal plan, human life reduced to man.
Champion of liberty, that's what them say. But freedom had a color, locked away. Gold in London, blood in the cane. Same family profit, different pain.
Oh, London calling, sugar flow. William Beckford steal the show. Lord Mayor twice, power loud. West India interest, slave owner crowd. He stand up to king, them call him brave, while 1,000 work him till them grave. Named enslaved people after freedom men. Mockery sharp like whip on skin. Liberty for city street, chain and gun for tropic heat. Same outreach, justice wide. Same unsigned punishment inside.
Then fire spark in 1760. Taki rise, rebellion mighty. Africans say enough is enough. Plantation shake, empire rough. Rebellion crush with brutal force. But Beckford play a clever course. Tell Britain pay for soldiers stay. Taxpayer guard his wealth each day.
Private profit, public cost. State defend what morality lost. Bridge absentee Lord, fast forward now. Next generation, William Thomas, richest son of nation.
3,000 enslaved, keep wealth alive. He never see them struggle to survive. Live grand life, heart and stone, while Jamaica pain remain unknown.
Distance wash, conscience clean. Absentee Lord, blood unseen. 1833, chains cut loose, no justice yet. Here's the truth, Britain paid the enslavers, not the enslaved. Crime rewarded, victims betrayed. Loon so big, it echoed through time. Blood money dressed as legal line. Beckford cash out, mansion rise. Art and pretty, truth disguise. Build wealth on race, divide humanity. Profit grow from brutality. Not just history, not just then. System designed by powerful men.
This statue, Gilded stone, still standing tall. Champion of liberty, carved in wall. But early design tell hidden tale. Foot on chain, African truth unveil. They hide the source, polish the face, but history leave unmistakable trace. Statue stand, question remain. Who freedom serve, who be West.
So when them live on but justice fade, when wealth still grow from debts unpaid, when ledger tips so far one way, what does repair even look like today? This is not hate, this is truth. History lesson for old and youth. from Jamaica to Britain, the story still breathe. Until reckoning come, we remember, we teach. Thanks for watching. Learn, share, connect. Until next time.